Hello guys, this is Ezekiel the Lab Tech. Today I thought of making a video in order to show you the various parts of a microscope. Before we proceed, I will plead on you to please click the like button, share this video when you're done watching, subscribe to my YouTube channel Ezekiel the Lab Tech, and comment just when you're done watching the video. Ask your questions. We shall answer them together. So we shall begin with first things first. This is an optical electric microscope. It is actually called a binocular optical electric microscope. And now, this is how I always do to memorize the parts. I begin with the first things first. We have the head of the microscope, the arm of the microscope, the nose piece of the microscope, and the base. I look at this microscope as a human, and so I begin with the head, the arm, the nose piece, and the base. Now, knowing those four parts, I can actually get to the other smaller parts. Now, beginning from the head, on the head of the microscope we have the eyepiece. Here is the eyepiece. We call this the eyepiece, and this eyepiece contains an ocular lens. Just in it, here is the ocular lens of the eyepiece. So we have two eyepieces with two ocular lenses. That's actually why it is called a binocular optical microscope. Now, after being done with the head, the nose piece. This nose piece is made up of objectives. On this nose piece are attached 4 objectives. Here are the objectives, and these objectives have their values. We have objective 100, we have objective 40, we have objective 4, and we have objective 10. Here are the objectives. These objectives help us to observe the sample on the lamp slide at different sizes or ranges. That is their sizes, how big we want to see it. If we want to see clearer, these objectives help us enlarge the sizes. Now, just below the objectives, we have the stage. Here is the stage of the microscope. Here is the stage. And on this stage, we have the stage clip. Here is what we call the stage clip. That is the stage clip. On this stage, we place our slides. This stage clip helps us to clip the slides so that they are held firmly. Now, at the level of the handle or of the arm of the microscope, we have what we call the coarse adjustment or the macrometric adjustment. Macro for large. Here is the macrometric adjustment. This big round structure which I'm moving is the macrometric adjustment. And just close to it, just attached to it, is the micrometric adjustment. Note this. This is macro for large. This is micro for small. You can also call it the fine adjustment. Now, this macro adjustment helps us to move the stage upward and downward. As you can see, it helps us move the stage upward and downward, whereas the fine adjustment or the micrometric adjustment help us also to move the stage upward and downward, but this movement is slightly not seen by the naked eyes. We can actually see the movement clearer when we look into a binocular lenses. That's where we see the movement of the stage by the fine adjustment. Now, attached to the stage that is just below the stage, we have what we call the stage controls. Stage control. Here is the stage control. As you can see, I don't know if it's clearer. Here is the stage control. This is the stage control. It moves the stage forward and backward, as you can see. and just below it is the clip control. It moves the clip left and right. Clip control, stage control. And so below the stage we have what we call the diaphragm. Below the stage we have what we call the diaphragm and the condenser. Diaphragm and the condenser to help us condense the light from the light source. Here is the light source. Here is the light source. And here is the on and off button of the light source. As you can see, here is where we on the light source. And here is where we control the light intensity of the light source. Control the light intensity of the light source. Now, knowing all of that, those are the most essential parts of the microscope which we ought to know by heart. As I said, here is the base of the microscope. Now, how do we carry our microscope? We carry it from the base. This is how we hold our microscope. We hold a microscope from the base. Carry it from the base. And so, thank you so much for your kind attention. And please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you get updated of all our videos we're gonna post. Please share this video to help others in order that they might know the parts of a microscope, a light microscope or an optical microscope. Thank you so much. God bless you. See you for the next video.